You know what mothers say about dishes? They won't put themselves away. 825 Forest Road is a Shudder original written and directed by Stephen Cognetti, who's done the Hell House LLC movies. Check out his IMDb page for the full list of his work. And this takes place in the hamlet of Ashland Falls. It has a deep-seated tragedy going back to the 1940s, but that doesn't stop Chuck Wilson, played by Joe Falcone Punch, from taking his wife and his sister to this particular hamlet to start a new life after a tragedy befalls Chuck and his sister, Isabel, played by Catherine Miller. And, well, we see this story unfold over 4 chapters, all centering around trying to find 825 Forest Road. And a movie called 825 Forest Road. Whoa, the deep narrative slapping me across the head like a goddamn brick. Speaking of bricks, this movie is about as subtle as a brick to the skull. There are elements of grief and mental illness that are tackled not very well, and while the acting is noble, and there are some neat little shots, and a couple bits with a mannequin that nobody in their right mind would want to be within 10 miles of. Seriously, burn that goddamn thing. What the hell is wrong with you? This movie just ends up being a typical haunted house movie that's about on the level of Presence. It's less gimmicky than Presence. There are a few plot holes and a few things that make the story feel simultaneously stretched out and really, really rushed by the third act. Like, I understand what they were trying to go for, and there are a lot of tropes that this movie relies on. And while it's not bad, it is certainly derivative and kind of aggressively boring. Okay, very aggressively boring. In fact, I was actually slapping my head a few times wondering if this movie was ever going to get to the bloody point. And then when it did, I go, okay, well, it's an ending. That's enough. That's really all I have to say. I do want to shout out Catherine Miller as Isabel. She does fine. Joe Falcone Punch, he does okay as Chuck. Maria, you got to see her, is played by Elizabeth Vermillion, who I actually think she does all right. She's not given a ton to do, really, until a little bit later on when they start revealing more about her. We go with Chapter 1, Chuck, Chapter 2, Isabel, Chapter 3, Maria, as well as Chapter 4, Forest Road. Because eventually you have to find something named Forest Road in a movie called 825 Forest Road. And the chapter breaks show the story from different perspectives. That is, the problem is the story is just not particularly interesting, and when you see scenes that are kind of repeating, you're like, okay, I didn't like these scenes the first time. The movie also, while being rushed in the third act, feels so stretched out that it feels like the near 100-minute runtime is about at least 30 minutes longer than it needs to be. I may have to check out the Hell House LLC movies, as I've heard some good things about them, and I think they've done like 3 or 4, which proves that that franchise has some legs. Nevertheless, there's not really a whole lot to this. It ends up limping to a conclusion that I guess is foretold in some art and a few little story bits early on, but some of it makes sense, some of it just is kind of up in the air, like, yeah, okay, that's fine. That's fine, it is what it is. Nevertheless, don't shudder if you want to check it out. So there you go. 3, 2, 1, spoilers. So basically we start off with a girl named Ashley Fiddle-dee-dee, who is investigating stuff about Ashland Falls, finds out that the borders for the town shrunk, and that comes back into play a little bit later on. She's talking to Isabel, and then let's just say Ashley meets an unfortunate end. An unfortunate end because this town revolves around a string of unaliving, I guess, is really the best way I can say it. I don't want to say the word because I don't want YouTube to trigger it. I know there are certain words you can't, well, I mean, you can say even if you're not monetized, but I don't want to risk it. And it goes back to the 1940s where there was this woman, Helen Foster, that was trying to get a family with a daughter to stop bullying her kid, Mary. That didn't work. And eventually Helen went absolutely batshit insane, killing the bully, killing the family of the bully, and then herself. And then we find out a little bit more about the history. Nobody can find 825 Forest Road because evidently nobody bothered to research much of anything, because it's actually pretty easy to find out where the fuck it is. Granted, the records and maps and everything are sealed because the town doesn't want their secret revealed, even though it's pretty obvious what the secret is. One once again, Catherine Miller, she kind of reminds me actually of the girl that was from Orphan. And actually, there are some similarities. They could almost be twinsies, as the kids say. I don't think the kids actually ever said that, at least no kids that I talked to. But, yeah, after getting the house, they've got leaks. It turns out that maybe these leaks aren't water. There's some pictures. Oh, no, mother, blood. Blood. It's not that the acting is bad. It's just that they aren't given a lot of great dialogue to go with. So Larry is the neighbor that basically tells Chuck about this stuff, and Ashley is in the library trying to tell Chuck, don't do it. It's real. All those books that are piled in the library hallway, don't worry, you don't have to do that. I didn't want to see her face, she says, but, there you are. That was actually a student a little bit later on, Olivia. She was a piano student. Chuck is apparently a teacher. Oh, I'm playing and not playing very well, but then suddenly he starts playing like crazy, and Chuck's like, well, oh, you do have talent. Well, there's a woman at the piano. I need to go. So, find Forest Road, and then we go to Isabel's chapter. She has grief because her mother was killed in a car accident, and she blames herself. And I thought Chuck was her dad, actually, but he's not. He's her brother. Maria also, it turns out there in her chapter, reveals that she has bipolar disorder. Ashley is a ghost. Isabel is upset about losing her friend that she evidently had for a while. The thing about dishes being put away, their mother always used to say that, they won't put themselves away, and they would always be stacked up like that. I just didn't really, I didn't find this interesting. I just didn't find this movie terribly inventive or even worth investing in. Nightmares for Isabel get a whole lot worse. These are not very good ghost effects. Now, yes, the budget was probably pretty small, but still, my God. If you can't do certain things and make them look halfway decent in 2025, you probably shouldn't be doing them. So, yes, Maria having bipolar disorder, obviously we'll come back to Boomerang on this whole thing. There's a boy named Luke that Isabel likes that does some investigating and eventually does find out where 825 Forest Road is. And, yeah, the town used to have different borders. The borders shrunk, which means that 825 Forest Road was part of the town, but now it's not. Oh, yes, and Chuck, during his investigation, finds out that this whole thing used to be 15 Rose Lane. More on that address in a little bit. And Maria kind of goes off her goddamn, rocker after her mannequin, Martha the mannequin, which, by the way, I'm sorry, nobody in their right mind would have that mannequin there, which maybe prove, and yes, she does art, she does crafts and stuff like that, and there's nothing wrong with that, but nobody would have that mannequin in their house. Nobody would want to be in the same town as that mannequin. That thing's creepy as fuck. So, eventually, after we get a bit of a thing where the mannequin's moving and stuff like that, which actually was mildly effective, I will give Steven that. That was actually okay as a seasoned horror fan. That was all right. But then they decided to burn Martha. This was a mistake, is what Maria said. She was referring to moving to the town, but I have to agree this was a mistake. 825 Forest Road was a mistake. It wasn't the worst thing in the world, but And these special effects are not very good. The ghost comes up to Maria, and Maria seems to be okay, but oh no, Maria's bleeding from the nose. And she never does that. Gee, I wonder who she is. Because she's clearly not Maria anymore. Oh yes, and the realtor wanted to film a testimonial about, hyping up her company. Humping up her company would actually be a different type of house selling, but hyping up her realty company. Mind you, Chapter 4, Forest Road, comes with about 20 minutes left on the clock. Maria is infected, possessed, as it were, and Luke finds out where Forest Road was. It's outside the borders. So Chuck and Isabel go there, and Isabel says, I know that we haven't really established much of a relationship or really anything beyond the fact that I know you a little. Can you stay here with my brother's mother and keep an eye on her? It's okay. It's fine. You'll be okay. No, the realtor lady, Bonnie, gets killed. Her assistant gets killed. Luke is trying to get out. All this crazy shit's going on. And the reason for that is, remember 15 Rose Lane? Well, it turns out that 825 Forest Road was the Bullies family's address. 15 Rose Lane was where Helen Foster lived. Oh, wow. Color me not shocked at all. Nothing was surprising. Nothing was surprising about this movie. And there was a bit of art, that they showed from Isabel a little bit earlier on, where she was, she looked like she was down a hallway and she had a hand that was grabbing her and stuff like that, almost like she foresaw this, even though that kind of doesn't make sense. So they're going to go burn down the house, Chuck and Isabel. Well, it turns out they're going to burn down the Bully's house, and it turns out they've been living in Helen's house the whole goddamn time. All this death happens, and then Isabel and Chuck get taken and pulled into this room of the Bullies. Or maybe it's the daughter? And then the house is abandoned again, and Helen's ghost continues to haunt. I guess I don't know. I checked out a while ago, like before this thing got to anything halfway good. While I did not hate it, I certainly did not like it much at all. So it gets an F. Sorry. Gave it a 1.5 on Letterboxd. Sue me. What do you want from me? I love horror. And if I hate horror or don't like horror, I have to let it be known. Agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.